Welcome to Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. I am the Uncanny Omar, and today is a very special day because I get to talk about Richard Stark's and Darwyn Cooke's final Parker, the Martini Edition. This one's called The Last Call. So, let's get started. At this time, I want to thank the folks at Organic Price Books for sending us a copy of this book. Welcome back, everybody. So this is going to be a little hard to talk about, I'll be honest. Just yesterday, as of this video, we found out that one of my favorite artists of all time, the phenomenal George Paez, passed away fighting pancreatic cancer. Even though we knew it was eventually going to happen, it still hit like a damn ton of bricks. And the reason this is going to be hard to talk about is not because he worked on the book himself, but we had another legendary creator work on this book that went way too soon as well. And that is, of course, Darwyn Cooke. But I am going to be talking about this, showing off this beautiful artwork, why I think everybody needs this particular edition. And, of course, talking about the legend himself, Darwyn Cooke. It is volume 2, and it will be the final volume because, sadly, Darwyn Cooke also passed away at a young age. Here are all the creators: Richard Stark, Darwyn Cooke, Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. They do have a story that's collected exclusively in this Martini Edition, and that's what these are called, the Martini Edition, and this is The Last Call, published by IDW. In the back, it tells you what is collected in here, so you have 2 stories, The Score and Slayground, and Tomorrow, and Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. That's the Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips story. It is in a slipcase, much like Volume 1. As a matter of fact, here we have Volume 1, and if you go back and watch my favorite IDW graphic novels, you'll see this in there. But depending on how you want to shelf it, you can shelf it like this. There was another printing of this particular Martini Edition, which I'm sure looks a lot more like this, with the Volume 1 up here at the top, and all the credits here. And instead of Parker, it's up here. So, but the back where you could shelf it, like so. But my Volume 1 is a first printing, and that's probably why it looks like. So if you have the most recent printing, let me know in the comments down below if they have the credits like this on the spines. Just comparing it from all angles, but let's go ahead to kind of give you an idea as to how big this book is. Let's get it out of the slipcase. I will say it's a little snug in there at first. But here's what the book looks like. You can see the shape of Parker right there. It is embossed. So Volume 1 has the similar shape of Parker silhouette right there. So it's identical in the way that it has that fake leather look to it and everything else. Now, I did want to compare it to the size of something maybe most people are familiar with here on the channel, and that is the size of an omnibus. So here is the latest printing of JMS's Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1, and just how much bigger it is than an omnibus. But let's go ahead and open this up, talk about the 2 stories in here, along with the other additional story that is collected in exclusively to the Martini Edition. And yeah, talk about what Parker is in case you don't know. Or who he is, rather. Let's go ahead and get this opened. So we have these blue tone end paper here. These are all the books that these particular graphic novels that you'll find in here are based on. Parker, the Martini Edition, Last Call. There's a special thanks right there to all the people that helped put this together. Abby Westlake, I believe that is Donald Westlake's wife, and maybe Paul is his son. I'm not sure. So to kind of give you a little bit of background, Donald Westlake used the pseudonym Richard Stark to write his novels Parker. So Parker was a series of graphic novels. I believe there's, oh my gosh, 25, 20, I don't know. I've never read, I'll be honest, I've never read Parker. I've only heard about it through introductions or through movies like Point Blank with Lee Marvin or Payback with Mel Gibson. Those are, actually, I think both of them are based on the Hunter original novel. So this would be considered volume 3 and volume 4 of those particular novels put into graphic novel format. Darwyn Cooke was a huge fan of those novels. There is an introduction here by Ed Brubaker talking about his time with Darwyn Cooke. I love these introductions because the creators don't mind getting a little personal. He talks about the falling out he had, and he doesn't even recall what it was about, but they got back together, became friends, and then they even pitched ideas for future, Parker stories. Like, I just think of all these things that could have happened and didn't because of time, right? It's not fair. There's also a foreword here by Scott Dunbier, who is the editor to help put this together. He was also the editor working at DC Comics with Darwyn Cooke on The Spirit. Here's your table of contents, and of course, these amazing pieces that are just found throughout this particular book. So in volume 1, we got to meet the character of Parker. And I've seen Parker described as an anti-hero or your misunderstood type of hero. And to me, the way that I've read him, and like I said, I've never read the novels. I've only known about Parker because of these amazing graphic novels. The way that he is written to me feels like a very charismatic criminal mastermind. That's it. He is ruthless. He really doesn't have any morals or ethics. Like, I think the biggest thing about him is he doesn't double cross the people that he works with unless he is being double crossed first. He is not afraid to murder and will just step on anyone to get the score. So that's pretty much what I get from Parker. You'll notice a couple things here that I'll talk about. So immediately you're going to notice the orange tones that he is using for this story. In volume 1, you saw the two stories had like a bluish and a greenish tone. In this particular story, it is all an orange tone. And it does take place in Jersey, well, it starts off in Jersey City in 1964. And it has, this is for example what I'm talking about. This particular character, we don't know who he is. Following, one would assume, is Parker. He's just kind of stalking him, trying to figure out where he's going for some reason. You get to find out why later. But then Parker, of course, knows he's being tailed. So he turns around, pushes the guy around. Guy pulls a knife on him. Parker just takes him down. Doesn't have a weapon. Takes him down with his big, massive hands and kills the guy. Takes his money. That's what kind of character you're dealing with here. He's not a very likable character. Well, charismatic towards some folks. But to a reader, it's not your average type of hero. There are always some redeemable qualities, I think, to anti-heroes. I think a lot of people would say, like somebody like the Punisher or Jesse from Preacher. That's to me, what I think of an anti-hero. He's more of a criminal, a thug, if you will, that is very charismatic. And even though you want to like him, there's a lot of things that he does and a lot of decisions that he makes that you're like, man, that's not good. But the score is an interesting story, like I said, based on the original novel, and it's about Parker getting pulled into a group of different criminals, and together they're gonna go have the biggest score. They're gonna go and rob this small town in something Canyon, North Dakota. It's all laid out by this gentleman here, and this is where we meet this one character, Al Grofield, who is like your actor, but he also does criminal jobs on the side. I don't know if he needs the money. Don't really get to find much out about him other than the fact that he knows Parker. And speaking of Parker, if you've read the previous 2 volumes, you're going to notice something about him. His face looks different than it did in the first couple of volumes. And that's all explained here, how that happens, and there's a reason for that. I love the fact that he laid out a map explaining where everything is going to be in this town, how they only have one way to get out, and they are robbing the entire town. So he's talking about, hey, we need a 25-man operation, and Parker's like, no, this is a fairy tale. There's no way in hell we can do this. And then slowly but surely, he kind of is like, wait, maybe we can do this with 12 men. We can cut the man in half, and the score is going to be even bigger. I like that. So he goes and finds his own crew. And that's really what this story is about. Again, with the orange tones. The second story in here is The Sleigh Ground. And this is after a heist. Parker's driving away and crashes in the middle of winter. And he has to find a place to just go and live for a while and go and hide because he's being chased by these police officers. And he finds an amusement park, an abandoned, well, I don't want to say abandoned, it's closed for the winter amusement park, hence the name Sleigh Ground. So these cops, instead of like going out and getting other police officers for backup and things like that, they decide to have a manhunt themselves, to kind of like the movie The Game, like go and hunt this guy down. They get a couple of other people to come and help them. So it's feels more like a Die Hard movie where it's just one guy up against all these guys that are coming to this playground, or I'm sorry, this amusement park that is closed for the winter, and he has to take them down one by one. One of the coolest things in here is you're going to find a fold-out map of the actual playground. So you can, I keep calling it a playground, I'm sorry, amusement park. So you can follow Parker along the way where he is and where his killers, or possible killers, are going to be. Now, one thing I didn't note is that this book has 360 pages. It retails for $99.99, much like the reprint of Volume 1. I want to say my printing, the very first volume I had, was maybe $75, or maybe it was $100. Now, you'll notice that he did go back to his bluish tones. It's a little lighter than what he used in Volume 1. And instead of the orange. God, I would have loved to have seen what he did with the other volumes. But this is the final story that Darwyn Cooke worked on. And sadly, there was no more Parker after this. But Ed Brubaker does step in, along with his collaborator, of course, Sean Phillips, to do Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is a story about Al Grofield, the character that we saw in the score. And this is a dedication to Donald Westlake and Darwyn Cooke. You know, the sad thing about the whole thing is that this was a love project for Darwyn Cooke. I mean, Darwyn Cooke was such an amazing creator, and in his short time in comics, because he was rejected at first, I know it's weird to think about, but when he finally made it in the comics, you know, we got some great freaking art from him. We got some great stories. We got the relaunch, that's where he worked with Ed Brubaker on Catwoman, New Frontier, but he always wanted to do this. This was his baby. He loved those novels so much that he wanted to come back and do his own thing and do these type of stories. And finally, IDW was like, sure, let's do it. And he got approval from Donald Westlake. He would show some sketches and prints to Donald Westlake, the creator, or Richard Stark, the creator of the Parker novels, the guy that wrote it and created this world, because he didn't want an adaptation. But somehow he saw these pictures and he saw something in them that he gave Darwyn Cooke his blessings. And the damn saddest thing of all is that I think he was on vacation, if I read one of the introductions right, with his wife at the time. Donald Westlake. He passed away. So he never got to see the finished Volume 1. And I know that wrecked Darwyn Cooke, because I mean, this is the guy that created his world. He won, and this is a like official adaptation of his work, and he never got to see it, which is a damn shame. All the way in the back is the Three Guys Walk Into a Bar. These are stories that are shared by Bruce Timm, Ed Brubaker, and Scott Dunbier. Stories about Darwyn Cooke and how great he was, and just stories from conventions, personal stories about him. Because while he didn't break it into comics, he did make it into animation at first. Then he came back to comics. He did the whole Batman Beyond opening. There are pinups all the way in the back here. I'm not going to go through all of them. So this is the first 10 illustrations are the ones Darwyn intended to include in the second illustrated book. No doubt, with some tweaking as he went, the next 3 pages have several alternate concepts that did not make the final cut. Gone way too soon for sure. The book has violence and strong use of language. So, I mean, this is probably, a lot of people would rate this mature. So if you want to break from your superhero stories or manga or whatever it is, and you want to read like a true crime noir story, one that hooked even Ed Brubaker, because without Darwyn Cooke, I mean, he goes on, he wouldn't have done things like Criminal. He wouldn't have gone on and do things like that. So Darwyn Cooke was an inspiration for people like Ed Brubaker to carry on and do their own stories. I think that's amazing. Amazing talent. Only the good. Oh, this is actually Darwyn Cooke looking at Donald Westlake's typewriters. And then, of course, the tribute to Darwyn Cooke and Donald Westlake. This one's drawn by Darwyn Cooke, and this one is drawn by Sean Phillips. Man. As far as the paper quality, which I'm sure you probably noticed by now, it is this thick matte paper. I mean, it is thick. I love when that type of paper is used on artwork like this. To me, it makes the contrast between light and shadow stand out even more. And you'll see a lot of that. Cooke was a master of that. The binding on the book, like volume 1, well, at least the first printing, I can't say about the second printing, is sewn binding. Here's what the art looks like. Again, 360 pages, retailing for $99.99. Rest in peace to all the great ones that have gone before us. If you're interested in purchasing this edition of the book or the previous trade paperback editions, check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this Martini edition. Let me know in the comments down below if you have picked it up already, if you've never heard of it, if you've read the books, and what you thought of them, what your favorite one is, and what you would have loved to have seen Darwyn Cooke adapt. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar, and this is for all our heroes that left us way too soon. So, everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.